Hi everybody, Algebra 1, Unit 1, Section 1, very first video that we're going to go over together. I'm doing this with you in class, you're sitting in the class, you're watching this on the board together. Normally that is not going to happen. Normally I would expect you to watch this either at home, in study hall, someplace else before class, so that you've activated some of this knowledge prior to coming in. Okay, so we're going to watch this in class a little bit, talk about it, stop it at some points on a topic that I know you've covered before in middle school or in pre-algebra, yet it's a very valuable piece. 1-1 integers. You've all experienced positive and negative numbers at some point. Let's delve into them a little bit. I'm going to go through the rules of what to do when adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing today. Then we'll do a little bit of work, talk about it, and see where we are at the end of class. Okay? You may have gotten rules like this. You may have learned them differently, how to do positives and negatives. And if that's the case, talk to me in class as we do the work time. The goal is for you to be able to do them. My experience, 20 years in teaching math, tells me that the rule number 1, rule number 2, and then rule number 3 seem to be the easiest. Okay? But let's talk about it. Rule number 1 is when we have same signs. And what that means is right here, -4 minus 7. It means that we have a minus attached with each numeral. The numeral 4, the numeral 7. -4 minus 7. When the signs are the same, as you will see on your paper, I'm following along with your notes. Rule number 1, if the signs are same, add the numerals, keep the same sign. 4 plus 7 is 11. They are both negative, so the negative travels. You did this back in kindergarten when you learned to add. +3, there's no positive before the 3, but we know it's positive, plus 5. 3 plus 5 is 8, and we keep it positive. That's rule number 1. Rule number 2 is when we have different signs. -3, +9. The signs are different. What do? Rule number 2 on your paper says if the signs are different, find the difference of the numerals, use the sign of the greater. -3 plus 9. The numeral is 3, the numeral is 9. What's the difference between 3 and 9? It's 6. What's the sign of the larger numeral? 9 is bigger than 3. There's a plus sign with 9, so it's +6, +6. -12 plus 7. The signs are different. Find the difference of the numerals. 12 minus 7 is 5. 12 is larger than 7 though, so the negative stays with the 5. 5 minus 16, positive minus, it's different signs. 16 minus 5 is 11. 16 is bigger than 5, so the negative stays there. And then we have another one too. So that finishes up rule number 1, rule number 2. That's ultimately the most important of the signs. Rule number 3 is if there are two signs. And rule number 3 will tell us, as we see here, if there are two signs between the numerals. If we have double signs, okay? Reduce those two to one sign, then it's back to rule number 1. So this becomes -4 minus 9. Plus or minus becomes negative. I've given you the little key at the top of rule number 3, that plus or minus becomes negative. Minus a plus also becomes negative, so this becomes 2 minus 7. This is the most important one to consider when you have minus a minus. And a lot of you learn this in middle school. You just do this, right? A lot of you just kind of do that. Teachers will teach you that. That's okay. I'm not saying no to that. But it's minus a minus does become plus, so it becomes 5 plus 8. Now, this becomes rule number 1. The signs are the same. Add the numerals, keep the same sign. The rules are different. Find the difference. 7 minus 2 is 5. 7 is bigger than 2, and there's a minus, so negative 5. 5 plus 8 is 13. Okay? That's your rules for adding and subtracting, and we're going to have some practice on that later. Lastly, we will be doing multiplication and division. And I've given you the rules. We don't really care about whether the number, we're not going to need to, all we need to do is do the math and figure out the sign. Positive times positive equals positive. What's an example of that? 8 the example that I've given you down at the bottom, notice that is 3 times 5 equals 15. What you learned back in elementary school. Okay? So, positive times negative equals a negative. And the example on that is 6 times negative 2. Positive times negative, negative 12. Negative times positive equals negative. I have negative 8 times 4 equals negative 32. Okay? And the last one that I want to put up, I'll do it over here, is negative times negative equals positive. And so the example I have is negative 9 times negative 3 is positive 27. Do the multiplication. 3 times 9 is 27. Oh, negative times negative means it's going to be positive. That's the thought process that we do. Division is exactly the same way. I'll use this one as the example. Negative divided by a positive equals a negative. So it's the same rules of if there's one of each, it's going to be negative. It's just looking at the numerals and seeing what sign is there. Okay, so these are the rules of integers. Guys and girls, some of you are so good at integers, you've been bored silly, and the work is going to be so easy, and you're saying, wait a minute, why am I doing this? I need to make sure of how all of you are doing. But some of you, I know, integers aren't the easiest. I know that. So this video will always be available to you on the classroom or in my Google channel. Sorry, YouTube channel. So you can always go back if you're at home and want to do a refresher, or if you want to watch this again during my class. It's available with the rules of integers. Okay? Now we're going to do some work in class. We are going to do some work in class. But you have to then do the summary. The summary that I have after the practice problems is also very important. Please take the time to consider that reflection.